you're having a fantastic day. It's really beautiful here today. Not humid, it's nice and cool. It really feels comfortable, and isn't that lovely? But especially, for t-shirt material and stuff. I just love that. Today, just a brief word about Books of Shadows. I'll be talking about Books of Shadows. I mean, there's not just going to be one video about them because they're part of our pagan life. They're part of our communing with the energies, the powers, the herbs, the stones, the elements, and so on. It's not every pagan or every witch keeps a book of shadows by any means. There are lots of people that don't write anything down, and that works for them, and that's okay. But I've been keeping shadows for, wow, decades, decades. I lost all of them, my past books, in a house fire we had 7 years ago. We lost everything but the clothes that we were wearing and what was in my purse. Um, eh, Things like that teach you, I'll tell you. You don't save a lot of shit, folks. Get rid of it. Have a feng shui of your house regularly. Throw stuff out. If you haven't used it in a year, unless it's precious or books, throw it out. So we, in our witchy lives, often don't get to keep our original shadows and so on. So we remake them, we add to them. I've gone through and finished a number of shadows where I had to start a new one because I didn't have any room left. So I don't stick with the same kind of book each time. I try different journals. I try different ways of making them. I have made a perfect binding parchment paper, real parchment paper book of shadows, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But it was almost an art project in and of itself, more than the actual spiritual side. So I decided that after that, because it was just so beautiful. After that, I realized that I wanted to be with my shadows like I was with my books. I am not a pristine bookkeeper. I will keep books that are rare or whatever. I have a few. I have one not Edgar Allan Poe, but yeah, Edgar Allan Poe that was printed when he was still alive and so on. Um, I'll keep those safe. But the books I work in every day, the books on the craft, the books on paganism, the books on spirituality and LOA and quantum theories and so on, those are dog-eared and highlighted and written in. I am friends with my books, and they are sometimes my best friends. So it gets to a point where you have to decide, are you going to be at peace with working with your book of shadows? If you want to keep it all pristine, that's fine, but provide yourself pages or inserts where you can write down something or you can jot down how you're feeling right after a ritual, because it's like waking up and wanting to record a dream. Get it down while it's feeling fresh, because that is what makes a book of shadows shine. That transferring of the energy to the book is what makes them shine. So the book I just finished or filled up is one of these off of The Stars Are Mine. I did that. But they're the Believe journals. I don't know if it's backwards or no. Oh, no, it isn't. Okay. They're the Believe journals off of eBay. They're 300 pages, 600 sides of pages, gold gilted on the edges. And it's paper that is a journalizer's dream. It takes paint or ink or watercolor or colored pencils. The only thing it won't take is Sharpies. Excuse me. I again tea stained the pages so that they look somewhat parchment and they have that parchment feel. There's a little tiny section of blank here that I have stuff I'm waiting to put in there. But this little book, I also gave myself a privatized section at the back so that I could keep personal notes that weren't a part of the body of this book itself. And then, of course, the accompanying jewelry and so on. But these are leather bound, awesome. They're like 10 bucks on eBay, and I love these books. This will continue until I fill it up completely as a personal, magical sort of journal, And I absolutely love, you know, every witch. I don't know, not every, I'm sorry, I won't speak for anybody else. Most of the witches I've known would just love to have an attic with a book stand and a place they can do their thing. Most of us don't have the kind of room it takes to have an actual temple room or you know, a magic room. And we'd all love to have a huge clunky book of our ancestors' shadows, right? Like Charmed, you know. Do you know they still sell those? And they sell them for like $300. And it's the spells that the writers of the show wrote for the witches in Charmed that's in the book. And people still buy it at $300. It's insane. It's just insane. And it's not even a real book of shadows. It's a movie prop, like a film prop or a show prop. So, but it's the look of the book, the fact that it's massive and, you know, it looks like traditional and family, and it just looks like what it was for the show. It was perfect for the show. But I don't want a book of shadows that has a picture of Cole in it. You know what I mean? Or the actor that played Cole. And the demons. Keeps them busy, right? But everybody had like that kind of old look to their book. Now, I've tried the perfect binding books like this, the sewn bindings, and unfortunately then the book just, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker because I add shit to my books. I glue stuff in there. I put it in there very much. My books are a working part of my day. So all my journals are. All of them. None of them are pristine. So to avoid the spine being broken because of the amount of crap I pile into them, I buy this kind of binding. Now, I take a leather strip and I two-sided tape it on both sides of this spine, and I make a leather spine for it, and then of course decorate the front if I want, because these are hardcover plain sketchbooks. I get these, I think it was $2.50 at the dollar store. Don't you love how the dollar store is no longer just a dollar? These books are filled with beautiful, beautiful, bright white paper. Bright. So Janet comes along and does the massively destructive tea staining and parchmentizing. I'm sorry, my camera's such crap, and the lighting in my room is such crap. See, it's all parchment and tea stain and old looking on the edges. It's beautiful now, just beautiful. So I started to place some herbs, things like that. Because herbs are one of the first things, aside from the blessing and so on, that I put in my book. I began the title page for the herb magic. I wish I had one of those handy overcam things. And started the first couple of pages for patchouli and alfalfa. And then we have yarrow, one of my favorite herbs to work with, yarrow, and of course cinnamon, which is a very powerful herb. But this book now looks like it's ready for all the things in my magical life that I want to put in it. It even sounds like parchment. And folks, this is simple white sketch paper that I took really strong tea. I boiled strong tea. I used red rose and a combination of red rose and orange pekoe because I love red rose and it gives this beautiful lush parchment color. And you take the tea bags and you crunch them up in a piece of material and make like a sponge out of them and just, you know, and for the edges, I made a little trough out of foil, put a little of the tea liquid in it, and stood my book up like this with the edge of the pages in the tea bath, let it soak for about, I'd say an hour, and the edges turn out like parchment dream. It's awesome, and it costs you nothing but some tea bags and a couple dollar store books. And they turn out Amazing. And when you add the leather binding to them, just a strip of leather over that while it's closed, and then you can open it. There's more than enough give to open it. And you can decorate the cover and so on. They're very easy, durable. Now, um, I love this kind of book, and I love the size of it. This is still absolutely one of my favorites because of its size. I throw that in my bag and go somewhere if I want to. If I'm feeling particularly righty that day, I'll throw this in my bag. So I kind of keep two. This will be now my newest formal shadows. And once it fills, because it's a ring type binding underneath the leather cover, it will stretch and stretch, and you can jam as much stuff into this as you want. So to have the parchment look, just take a couple of days and stain your pages. It's awesome, just awesome. So as far as the content of the Book of Shadows, um, if you're following Wicca, there's lots and lots and lots of material you want to include in there, including the threefold law, the witch's reed, and the traditional holidays and so on, the wheel. If you don't follow a particular path and you are eclectic, use your book for whatever you want to. The freedom to use it in whatever way, in whatever process, it's up to you. Don't be afraid. People and journals, it's not just books of shadows, but you'd be amazed at how many people. Can you see how many journals I have on these little shelves over here? Some of them are new. I buy journals as I see them, if I like them, if they're on sale, etc., etc. There's all kinds of reasons I stockpile journals, and I have two smaller size, this size, of these, but it's lined paper, so it's more like a journal than what I wanted this for. Isn't that awesome? I love the way the paper turns out. Um, don't be afraid. Take pen to paper. It's yours. If you don't like the page you did, the beauty of it is, and I wouldn't recommend tearing the pages out because especially if you have a perfect bound book, a sewn book like this, taking pages out means redistributing the other pages and it can really make your spine messed up. But paste something over the page you don't like. Paste over a new piece of parchment and begin again, or just, use that experience of making that mistake you didn't like or wanting to change something you didn't like. Use it as a way to get more comfortable with your book and understand there are lots of us, lots of us. And I'll talk about brain dumps on another. I might even have left it up, but I'll talk about that on another video. But there are lots of us that in not only our personal books, but our shadows will document something, either a feeling or an event or something, and then we'll either paint over it or paste a picture or write in the opposite direction to hide the words. It's part of secret magic. It's part of the undertones of some magic work that where the words become oblique or opaque. The words become unseen, but they are still there on the page, and that lends a lot of magic to something you're doing. Make sure that you keep detailed accounts. If you do a ritual or if you do something, write down what you use, how you did it, and so on. If you're leaving your books for future generations, make sure that you talk to them as though you're talking to them, not keeping a diary. Make sure that if your book is for passing down to the newer pagans in your family and so on, make sure that you speak to them through the years. Make sure that you speak to them from the past. Once you're gone, this will be your magical voice to pass on to them. Excuse me. I think there's a high pollen count today. This is ridiculous. Sorry. Whew. If anybody's got a good spell for a anti-allergy, throw it in the comments. The point of it is your Book of Shadows is a personal journal about who you are magically. Um, you are free to show it to people or not to show it to people. There are lots of pages in my book. I'll be glad to do a flip through once I get the new one organized and so on. I may do a flip through of this one. I'm not sure yet, but it's half journal and half Book of Shadows. So it would be, I mean, there are things in here I'll gladly show. Let's see. I did a lot of herb drawings and so on in here. I found this, it's just a page, but I found this gorgeous picture in one of the Smithsonian, or no, National Geographic. And I put a caption that says, in the Garden of Eden. And that is nothing biblical. That is a term meant to mean paradise. And I'm sorry, but I'm not a nitpicky person as far as words go. Your God, my God bless me vid would have shown that. But there's lots in here. I did rune pictures, pictures of my runes and so on, and did some rune explanation. I wish it could be seen more clearly, but my camera is bad. Anyway, so I may do a flip through of that, but there's more of this that I wouldn't show people than that I would. And we'll see how this one ends up being, you know, after a long practice, because some of it may be very, very personal. Some of it will be very personal. The point is, if you don't have a Book of Shadows now, maybe you might like to try one. You don't have to have a beautiful one. You don't have to start with a gorgeous cover. Believe me, if you want a gorgeous Book of Shadows, both filled and blank, Etsy, beautiful crafters there of leather covers and so on. But if you can't afford to buy one of those, or you prefer to make your own from scratch, then tea staining sketchbooks is an easy peasy situation. Just remember about how full you're going to fill it, okay? If you are never adding anything to it, never adding any thickness to it, then go for the perfect binding, the sewn binding, uh, anyway, it's the set of papers. I forget the name of it anyway. But you need to watch what binding you use, and this can be covered easily with a strip of beautiful leather and decorate the cover and so on. So, make your Book of Shadows yours. Doesn't matter what you put in it. You have to treat it however sacred that text is to you. If it's a sacred book to you, then treat it as a sacred book. And do remember the threefold law. Doesn't matter what you are doing in this life. If you are writing something in your book, this energy that you put into your book, you are bringing back when you do this work 3 times the power, because you've put it in here and brought it back, and so it does come back to you even in this way, through writing or text or whatever. Make your book yours, enjoy it, have multiple books of shadows. You don't just have to have one. If you have 2 books you absolutely love, you can go back and forth between them. I mean, there's no doubt this would be the book I would take to any kind of friend, or you know, if a coven that I'm associated with. I'm not a member of any coven at this point. I've had 3 in my life. I've run 2 of them. I'm a solitary probably for the rest of my life. I much prefer that. Organizing. It's the organizing. It's not even the magical work with a group of people. It's the same with any group. I don't care if you're collecting spiders. Every group of people, it's like herding cats, trying to get them to a meeting or an SBAT or a Sabbat, or whatever you're doing. It's like herding cats. And even though I delegated those responsibilities. It was ridiculous. It just is. Maybe I'm glad that you guys get it to work. It worked for me for about 10 years, I guess. I don't know. Off and on. I much prefer the solitary pagan life. This is run really long, and I'm sorry. 20 minutes is ridiculous, but I think that our books of shadows, those journals that we keep that are an extension of us, deserve the time to be talked about, discussed, explained, and so on. Make it your own. Decorate it the way you want. There are no hard and fast rules about your book of shadows. Bless it or don't bless it, that's up to you. Protect it or don't protect it, that's up to you. It doesn't matter what you do with it. It's an extension of your filing system, your magical filing system. So enjoy and enjoy today, and blessed be.